Hello.
So I was looking back, reading how you guys got together and everything, and I think the origin story of the teenagers is almost too perfect, I think, because you guys met at your 18 square meter apartment at Christmas, recorded
Yeah.
full kind of as a joke, being vodka drunk. And when you look back to that moment now, does it feel like a distant past, or does it feel like it was just yesterday? What are some feelings that resurface for you?
Yeah, it feels a bit like another life, to be honest. It also feels like it's yesterday. We were friends at school, from I knew them. One, I knew him since I was like 7 years old, and the other one since I'm like 14 or 15. So we were really good friends. And yeah, it feels like it's another life because we had this weird career where we intentionally did 4 or 5 years of really intense stuff, and then we stopped for 10 to 12 or 13 years. So yeah, it's a bit weird.
And I think back in the day, your popularity was very tied to like MySpace and the blog,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just an ecosystem that doesn't really exist anymore. What feels the most different about how music circulates now compared to your experience that you had back in the day, do you think?
I think the most different is like how the internet in general and the socials are, because when we arrived, it was kind of a new thing, this MySpace thing.
Yeah.
And we really created a profile early on MySpace. We were lucky because we arrived at a phase where the MySpace thing was such a movement of artistic discoveries and exchange. Like people were really talking to each other. I made a lot of friends on MySpace, even from Paris. We message, hey, you like this music? Oh, are you going to this gig? We were meeting, and I met some of my good friends like that. And I feel like now it's really different. Now the internet is a bit of everything is a strategy, So if I'm completely honest, I preferred the first wave because no one has like digital marketing didn't exist yet. There was no strategies, There was no blog explaining how to make your band appear, So we didn't give a fuck, It's like it was like really no strategy, no plans. We were never trying to find the right day, the right time. We were just posting stuff and pictures of us. We're just taking pictures one night, posting them at midnight. It doesn't make sense now, but you know what I mean? Like it was all like really innocent.
And I think Gen Z didn't really have that. And the more and more the world is going shit and like everything is becoming very like anxiety inducing, I think people are turning to nostalgia and just
I think so.
back at like bands like you guys. And I feel like there's been a renewed interest in the late 2000s, like bloghouse these moments. With, like, the Dare, Frost Children, Snow Strippers and everything. When you hear that, do you feel like it's a meaningful continuation of the whole blogosphere that you experienced back in the day? Or does it feel a bit repetitive? What do you think?
No, it doesn't feel repetitive. I mean, I think like if the Dare and Frost Children were back in the days, they would have been huge on the blogs. This type of music would have been really working. I think. I feel the repetition goes with the style. The how people dress and stuff. It's funny for us because we grew up and we don't have the same taste as when we were 25, and we see some bands now that wear the stuff that we had, kind of like the tight jeans and stuff, and. We don't mind, but it's just funny because you see it's like music, the cycles, and now we're in the cycle where some kids dress really in skinny jeans and stuff, and so it's funny. Now there's so many different niche that we can't really say that the skinny jeans is in fashion. It's just like there's a niche for that, but there's also a niche for hip hop, and there's a niche for baggy, and there's a niche for skaters. It's like everything is quite big now, and you can find your niche. But as before, when the Strokes arrived, like we all wore skinny jeans and Converse. It was like a big worldwide movement, So to rebound on that, it's true that when we started, we just, honestly, we never talked about how we dressed each other. We just dressed like we wanted to dress. And so it was not, we didn't think about that. So in a way, it makes it as well really authentic because we were just us, you know, we were not trying to look cooler. We were just already, if I didn't do music, I would dress like that as well, you know, so.
Exactly. And now I feel like it's more of a, it's almost like an archival practice because like looking back at pictures and like looking at like, so there was American Apparel, so we have to like source that on Etsy, you know, it's that kind of thing, which is must be very funny when you look back at it because like you said, it was just something that you wore and you didn't really put much info. And now you can find like similar items on eBay for like $400. In the day, that was not the price that you would have like paid for it.
I didn't know that you could find stuff like that really expensive. I have no idea.
Yeah, because like once you put the right keywords, once you say stuff like indie sleaze, Y2K, American Apparel, like vintage,
really?
You can like sell it for whatever the money.
Because I really threw a lot of American Apparel t-shirts and hoodies.
I don't think that like in Paris there was a huge indie scene to begin with.
No, there was not.
Yeah, I think it's like mostly UK that we had to export from there, but it didn't really happen, I think. But I'm really curious to hear like what was the music scene feeling like in Paris back in the day when you guys were like in the inside.
In Paris, we hung out a lot with the headbanger. That was really the beginning of Justice and the beginning of I don't know, Kavinsky. You know, all. These acts, and they were throwing all the parties, so we were just going at these parties, but there was not really an indie scene. But then when we signed our deal, we moved to London, and over there, that was the indie dream. Every band lived in East London at the time. Almost everyone lived there, you know, it was really East London, and there were gigs every night, and there was really a scene, like we met all of the bands, and then we knew all of the other bands and we always bumped into them at a bar, at a concert. So it was really this type of feeling of community, you know, everyone was in London and a lot of them made it big. You know, there was Metronomy, there was Crystal Castles, there was us, there were a lot of other bands, maybe some you don't know and stuff, but it was really fun. Like, it was really cool.
So did you prefer the scene that was happening in London to the scene that was in Paris?
Yeah, to me, as a kind of an indie rocker guitar music, that was much more exciting in London, yeah.
Your first album is a staple in DIY music. Like, to me, it's like a really good DIY music, very lo-fi, and it still feels very expensive. And so when you signed to, like, XL, your label back in the day, did they try to smooth out the lo-fi bits a little bit, or did they just let you do whatever you want?
No, honestly, we had full freedom. They didn't tell us anything, which was
incredible.
I was even surprised by it at the time. They just told us, do whatever you want.
Like, it means that they were really perceptive about your music, because I think what worked was the lo-fi bit. If it was like very heavily produced, sophisticatedly produced, maybe it wouldn't have worked otherwise. And I think they knew that that would be the case. And why do you think that you guys always gravitated towards singing in English and never in French?
Yeah, it's mostly because we all kind of listen to English speaking music, so it was natural for us. We didn't even ask ourselves, should we sing in French? You know, I really liked the Strokes, the everything was in English. So to me, it felt natural. And I remember at the time we did a lot of meetings with labels, and we did one label in France who was a sub-label of Virgin or something. And the guy asked us to sing in French, and we were like, really like, okay, bye. It was exactly like if someone told you, yeah, can you replace all the guitars with violins and then no drums but congos? You're like, well, what? Like,
you were signed to the label, and I feel like they didn't renew the contract, or maybe you guys didn't want to use the second album. So what happened there? Like, how did it go?
No, they didn't renew. It was like when you sign with these big record labels, you always have options for more albums. Mm-hmm. But what you don't really know when you sign and you're young is like the option is only for the label. So I remember we kind of had a bad manager, so it was also really... They asked us to send new songs, but a manager sent us on tour constantly. And I remember that we had no time to write new songs. So we sent 3 demos at some point, but they were made between, hotels and stuff. Like, we had no energy, no inspiration. We didn't have a break to write, and so in a way they were a bit shit, and it was too soon as well. And so they didn't renew the option, but maybe it's not even because of these songs. Maybe they didn't want to renew. Maybe we didn't sell enough. I don't know, honestly.
And I think back in the day there was this like incredible pressure on artists to constantly make music, whereas now I think it has like relaxed a little bit. Now like you can say that you're not going to make music for 5 years, and the labels are going to be like, oh, okay, if it's artistic and if it's going to like build up the hype. I still think of like marketing strategy wise, but still it makes it so that like you can take a little bit of a break like in between.
Yeah, it's true that they asked us for demos like 3 months after our record was released, and we had nothing, honestly.
Of course, because like you just gave it your all anyway. It's just time to tour and just like enjoy having made something, And
it's true that I remember in an interview someone said, I don't remember who, but it's like your first album, you put your whole life in it. It's like you put all your best songs since you're like thinking about it, and then you have 3 months to write new songs. You're like, it's kind of hard, yeah.
I mean, when they did not renew the contract, were you guys thinking that okay, it's fine, we're gonna still make music independently, or did it make it so that you guys just wanted to stop altogether?
No, at the time, without a label, at the time would be hard. We were still touring at the time. But then we had a fight at this moment. We had a fight with one guy in the band, and so it got a bit complicated. It was really a bit like he went up and then he went like kind of like in 6 months he went a bit. We were not really hanging out together. We were back in Paris. We had no label. We had a bit of money left, so we found a producer. We tried a lot of different producers, but it never really satisfied everyone, I
think like it's quite hard to constantly be on good terms with people who you see every day. You make music every day, you stay together every day, you go to hotels every day. So at one point it's going to just rise up and just like pop from somewhere else,
It's like being in a relationship.
Yeah.
But you don't really have the pros. You have only the cons,
Exactly.
It's like being in a really annoying relationship, and when it goes not really well and when you fight, you still have to share the hotel room, the van the whole day, the airport waiting. So when you're not in a good term for a few days, like it's really annoying,
Like it must be so uncomfortable to just fight and then have to sit at like Heathrow for like 6 hours.
Yes, that's really we live that a lot.
I think on the new songs, I feel like there is still like this lo-fi tendencies, especially with the vocals, but the production this time around, I think it seems a bit more sophisticated. So how did you guys record this album?
We got in touch with a producer called Etienne Grema, and he started to say like, if you guys, I was a fan and stuff, and if you guys want to work on something, I can help you out and stuff. We can try. And so that started like a year ago. Going back into music, I had a lot of songs to write, I think, because I stopped for 10 years, so I had a lot to. And so this past year, I wrote a lot of songs. I still have a lot of demos, like rewrote, I think, maybe 14 or 15 songs. Ooh. And I have like even more demos than that still. Another guy called Raven Artson added to the mix, so they both produce it now. And we do everything distance. When we have a version that we like, I do it on the computer. We send him and we send them, and they work on stuff. They send us a version. We comment. We go back and forth, and then,
You guys have not been making music for a long time. Maybe it can be very exhilarating, but also sometimes challenging to go back to do it again. So, what has been some like remarkable moments during this recording, or some challenging moments, like specifically?
Well, it was great because we did we met in Amsterdam with one of the producer, Raven, back in November, December, I don't remember, November, I think, to record all the vocals, he has a real studio in Amsterdam because he's from there originally. And so we met there with Quentin and him for a week to record vocals for all the songs. So that was really cool because the Instagram music is nice, but in a way you like to meet sometimes and do the stuff
Of course.
for real. And the down is like, yeah, it's always like, it's a bit, because you're not in the same city, so it's always, you wait for the track to arrive, and then you're like, I don't know, it's something weird, and so you have to write each other. Can you send it back? But the other guy is probably at a restaurant, it's like just like it's less fluid that if you see each other in the studio every day and you can just do stuff.
And I really liked the song. Do you remember particularly? Because I feel like it feels like the big brother of Feeling Better, It's kind of a beautiful comeback song that really focuses on like the teenager's legacy. And I think it also like refreshes the memory of the fans. Were you a little afraid at some point that you wouldn't be able to find your fan base during this comeback?
Yeah, I think as well, because we have the stats now on Spotify and on Instagram. On TikTok especially, and I think our fan base switched. It's not the same people as before, but it's also nice. It's also why I like to do it again. It's because we have a lot of new fans as Gen Z,
Yeah,
and that makes it more fun to create music for them, and because if it was only for the old fans that are my age, it's a bit like. If it's only, you see these bands from I remember seeing this band from the 80s and they do a gig and everyone is 50 years old.
Yeah.
Being like daddy dance. It's like, I mean, I don't mind them doing that, but it's just like, I don't think I would do it if there was not a new wave of fans. Yeah.
I understand completely. I went to a Suede concert a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking that, they're a huge Britpop band. I'm sure there's going to be like a lot of young people like me who like Britpop, because we all like Oasis and Blur and everything.
Well,
I was the only person who didn't have gray hair. I kid you not. Everybody 50, 60, 70 even. The only person who I saw who was like below like 40, And I was like, oh, that's interesting that they weren't able to like convert new fans into life, because they're a really solid group and didn't sound old at all, but they couldn't manage to do it apparently.
It's cool for them that they were big enough to still do big gigs with all the audience. It's good for them. But it's true that I think it's more exciting if you can convince new people, and I think TikTok really helped us. We didn't know, but our Homecoming went kind of viral on TikTok, and he made it discovered to a lot of new people, and that's also nice. Yeah.
And while you guys were away, like when you didn't make music for all these years, what was the thing that you missed the most about the teenagers?
When you're in a band, I think the adrenaline is kind of what you miss after. It's like the adrenaline of going on stage. The second you go on the stage and the audience, you see the venue is full and stuff. That's like a shot of adrenaline that then you struggle to find in normal life. So I remember that with the other band, we all called it the post-tour depression. Because every time you have a big tour or you go to the US for a full tour of 2 or 3 weeks, the day when you come back, you're like, what are we doing today? We're going to the groceries. I'm gonna call my mom, and then it makes you go out and have beers. It's because you're like, it's hard to adjust when you tour. So
of course.
So I would say it's the dopamine or the adrenaline of